Hello out there again. It's Groundhog Day again. I feel like Bill Murray in one of my favorite movies. Um, we are doing a repeat podcast from one that I just attempted a couple days ago with my former coach, mentor, friend, uh, and collaborator, Allan Hanckel. We did this a couple mornings ago, and I had hit the record button somewhere, and then got up to make a cup of coffee or something and decided to hit pause, which is a bad idea because I never unpaused after that. And so we wasted an hour of some really good discussion of state of track and field and some other things. So it's it's like hello, it's Groundhog Day again, and that must mean we're here at Gobbler's Knob in Pennsylvania. Actually, we're in Southern California, but it does feel like the same day is rolling out again. So I will try to give you the same insights and everything that we did the other day, but as I'm getting older, the odds are getting worse on that kind of stuff. Um, for some background on Allan, you already know me, Troy Haynes, the Sky High and Fly guy here on Raise the Bar. And this is the Sky High and Fly Jump Lab podcast. And we cover a lot of topics here, really like to promote track and field, jumps in particular, high, long, triple, pole vault, all of those I've coached. Very little work anywhere else. Allan is the exact opposite. Allan has coached just about everything. Um, and one of the reasons that is because he's worked with both decathletes and heptathletes, much wider range of events. His knowledge of biomechanics, training, and just high level, high pressure situations is up there. He's coached Olympians. He's coached, the great Jackie Joyner Kersey. He coached Jimmy Conley, teammate of mine at UCLA, who was one of the top decathletes in the world, heading into one of the Olympics before he decided to break his leg filming a Pepsi commercial. And so Allan's had just a wealth of experience and has worked with some obviously top flight athletes. So it's always good to get his brain, starting to unspool and tell you all the good stuff. So Allan's athletic background, he was a um, lacrosse player, so like at Syracuse, and we will try to delve in a little bit into some of that stuff. And I mentioned the fact that the great Jim Brown, the football great, who retired after 9 seasons in the NFL with like 12,000 yards rushing, which at the time nobody knew if that'd ever be broken, and since has, of course. But he retired early, kept all of his faculties, for a long time. Just passed away recently in his mid 80s. And started movies and real trendsetter at the time. Just an amazing life and amount of things he did. But it was very much, according to Allan, kind of like a Bo Jackson. Very athletically talented. So he was both a football and lacrosse player at Syracuse, and Syracuse was a national power in lacrosse, and I wouldn't be surprised if they still were. It's very kind of a legacy sport for them. And anyway, the legendary Jim Brown ran uh, track, did football and lacrosse. So kind of like a 1950s, late 50s, early 60s version of Bo Jackson. So, which is surprising to nobody when you watched what he did on the field on the gridiron in the NFL. When you watch his old videos, it's like nobody could tackle the guy. He just ran everybody over, ran around him, ran through him, did whatever he wanted basically. And this was usually against defenses that were stacked to stop him. So we'll talk about that and some other things. The one thing that I know is part of the agenda is a little bit of a wrap up of this last track season here in Southern California and California in general. We just had our state finals. State finals at in California is just brutal. We were talking about it. A couple of my best athletes, Nate Baca, a junior now, but will be a senior next year at Ayala High School here in Southern California. Came to me last year as a 6'2" jumper. Ended up the season at 6'4". Should have been making 6'6" probably last year, but took second CIF, but was unable to make the run to state. This year, Nate peaked out at 6'10". He won CIF for Division One, the biggest one, and headed into the Masters meet. But it's just amazing. The run this year was difficult. There were a lot of really good jumpers, which hasn't been the norm here in California the last few years. There's always a few, but the depth was pretty outstanding. There were 17 kids that made 6'6" at the state meet, which is a lot. And so Nate wasn't able to get that through that run this year. But the run is pretty amazing because we have two big flight invitationals, right? We have Arcadia followed by Mount Sac. And then there's a 1 week off, which if the coaches are smart, their kids are not competing that week, especially if they're getting ready for a state run. So they get a week off, and then it's league finals. The very next week is CIF prelims. Now, CIF prelims is a big show. There's about, usually 30 something kids, and they're going to cut that field to 9 for the final. So, 75% reduction, come back the next week, go from scratch. At that meet, through the 4 levels of CIF, they take the top 12. This last year, they made it 18 plus ties. So there's a lot of them thrown in the kitty. But again, we're going to cut that field to 12. Um, so it goes Arcadia, Mount Sac, league prelims with 1 week off. But league prelims, again, a pressure meet. Got to finish in your top 3 and or hit an at large mark. But you can't jump small that week. You have to jump relatively big. If it's a crappy league, you can jump something small. You don't have to go all out. But then, the next week, CIF prelims, you got to keep going until you're one of the 9 left. Who knows how high that is? Especially at Division One. It's very competitive, so it'll go up. Um, I believe it was 6'2" or 6'4" this last year. And then CIF finals, you got to get through that. And that's high leverage. And then the very next week, Masters meet. Masters meet is to go to state. So it just piles up. Boom, boom, boom. It's like a 5, 6 week run. And you're trying to stay at pretty much at your peak. It's difficult to time the peak, and it's difficult to extend a peak for that long. So we had that problem. It's always difficult. Um, Took 4 athletes to state this year, which was a high water mark. And one, Kate Hemisath, my senior from Sacramento, California, she got through, jumped 5'3" in the prelim, made it to the finals and took ninth, got on the podium this year. Um, but it was tough. It was the other thing about the state meet was it was hot up in Clovis, California. So we have a couple stories about that. Allan and I, we didn't travel together, but we ended up at the same, hotel, shared a room, swapping stories, and going over some of our favorites like Caddyshack and stuff like that. But Allan's just he's been around a little bit longer than I have. Not much, but again, he was my coach. My last year was of competitive high jumping was 1992. I was trying to make it to the Olympic trials for the third different time. I was getting older. I was 28. So he was kind of my last ditch attempt. And I learned a lot from Allan, but I had a lot of bad habits. I started high jumping when I was 12. By the time Allan got a hold of me, I was 28. So great knowledge on his part, dinosaur brain on my part. Wasn't able to learn enough in that short of a time to revolutionize my high jumping career. But it did set me up well for, what I'm doing now, which is working with athletes of all ages, from junior Olympians to Paralympians to high school kids trying to get to their state finals to college kids who are trying to get ready for their next season, to even some, elites here and there coming back. So it is the way that it is, and we're going to keep it rolling here. I'm waiting to see Allan pop up in the green room, and let me check my emails and make sure he hasn't tried to text me and say what's wrong. I don't think so. He may just be having trouble waking up this morning. It's early here on the West Coast, before 7 o'clock. So um, it's wake up time. It's go time. To quote the famous Tommy Boy line. Uh, all right. Well, I'm not gonna hit pause. We're taking a small pause. I can either edit this out later, or you can watch me drink my coffee. We'll try to see if Alan's face is gonna pop up here. He said 6:45. It's now 6:49. Uh, Here we go. Are you up? Yeah. Are you yup? Are you up yet? You phone. All right. A little prompt never hurts. Um, I'm also watching a little bit of Wimbledon right now. My favorite tennis tournament since I was a kid. I remember the famous Borg versus McEnroe duels back in the 80s, early 80s. Second time when Borg lost to McEnroe, McEnroe kind of ticked him off so much he forced him into an early retirement. Borg was only 25, and he stopped competing. He'd already won what, five Wimbledons, I think, in a row. He'd already won five French Opens. What was the one he couldn't master? It might have been the U.S. Open. I can't remember. Borg won three of the four. As great as he was not a Grand Slam winner. He did not get the Grand Slam, which includes all four majors. One of my favorites to watch, though. He's very much like Roger Federer. Federer is just so calm and cool, and you never got one word out of Borg. It kind of was like the Borg on the Star Trek show, like just like no emotion, nothing. Never saw him react. There's some interesting stories about that. Um, what else? I'm watching Arena Sabalenka, one of my favorites. She's got one speed, man. That girl just plays full blast all the time. Just screaming and yelling, hits the ball hard. I think she'd probably, if I could move around on a tennis court anymore, it'd be bad. I don't think I'd be hitting any balls back. I think they get right by this old body. Um, wow, she really had a battle. Oh, against this Sigmund from Germany, just playing cat and mouse with her and kind of beating her at her own game. Not really the power game, but she's got really good hands. A lot of drop shots, getting her into the net. They're playing cat and mouse up there, trying to get it by. Little half volleys, run, hit it back. Oh, great play. All right. Alan must be having his coffee infusion. He may be doing it intravenously. So Alan has also worked with a good friend of mine and a friend of the show, Doug Nordquist, who one of the American greats on the list of all-American great high jumpers. I think the list starts with Charles Austin, who jumped 7'10" and a half, American and Olympic record, which is 240, way up there. And then working our way down, I believe from 240 is 239 and or 238. 239 has got to be what, 7'10" and a quarter, I think, which is what Hollis Conway jumped. I'm trying to think. I don't think anybody's over 7'10", but those two for the US. And then uh I don't even know if there's anybody in the 7'9" area. But Doug Nordquist jumped 236, which is 7'8" and three quarters, which is nothing to sneeze at. And Doug was a former Olympian, jumped in 84, jumped 7'6" and a half, I think, in the final 230 and came in fifth, which is nothing to sneeze at. Two steps from the podium, one step behind his cousin, Dwight Stones, and some stories there. Boy. Oh, I see a name. I see him moving. I saw him just for a second.
Oh, good Lord, man, I'm here.
I heard, now I can hear you. I saw
But
you just for a second.
where's my freaking harness? Oh, there we go.
I don't know. There it is. Well, I know you don't like the movie, but I was gonna say this is like Bill Murray and Groundhog. It's Groundhog Day again, and, and that must mean I'm here with Alan Hanckel talking over stuff. So I'm gonna let you
Is
run
that
things
what-
from here because I butchered it last time, but I do have the recording button going. So we are live, as they say, and rambling. So
Deja vu all over again, man.
yeah, deja vu all over again. Exactly. But we're talking with Alan Hanckel, coach of mine, mentor, friend, confidant, collaborator, co-conspirator, all those things. And you can see it in his background there. This is gonna be his podcast, The Human Limit. He's supposedly backing me up with a recording because
Yeah,
I
I
butchered it
better
last
check it.
time.
Make
Check
sure
your
I'm in
recording.
there. Where do I see that?
Yeah, I'm on my Zoom screen down at the bottom right. It says I'm
What's that?
recording to my computer.
Request host. You already. It says request to start cloud recording
Yeah,
sent
I
to
don't
you.
know.
So,
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I am recording, so we should be safe. But
all right.
all right, well, we're back at it, and
Yeah, we are.
I
It
told
was.
everybody a little bit about your Syracuse background again, setting up the famous Jim Brown discussion. But I was mentioning that
Should we
Jim
go? Should
Brown
we? Should we
sounds
re
like yeah, he was the Bo Jackson of the late
of the
50s
time?
apparently.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. If you want to revisit that, we can. It was. I related to you that um he was legendary when I got there. Um, of course, everything was. I mean, Syracuse basketball was big time at that when I
Right.
arrived on campus. They were Final Four in the first year I was there. Um, but football dominated,
Yeah.
because of the running backs.
They had
You had
great running backs. Yeah, I remember that run. Like,
you had Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, Floyd Little, Jim Nance, Larry
yes.
Zonka.
Oh my gosh. And they all
Uh,
played in the pros after
oh
that.
my God, something
Distinguished
else.
careers in the pros, like not
Yeah,
just a cup of coffee guys, but all-time greats. Yeah.
yeah. So that was the overarching theme, and um, so the stories about Jim Brown were plentiful, and they were more so because my my coach, my lacrosse coach, Roy Simmons, played with him. For his dad, his Roy Jr.'s dad was the legendary lacrosse coach that built the program and so on.
Hmm.
So the one story I related to you was this was a story that Coach Simmons told us about. We'd be sitting around and be talking about just lacrosse back in the day, and um, all the permutations of it and how it's changed and all that stuff. And of course, inevitably we get to Jim Brown.
Right.
And so as the story goes, Jim grew up in New York City. There was some sort of problem he had with his family. He ended up staying with the Malloy family in Manhasset, which is on the North Shore of Long Island.
Hmm.
He never played lacrosse. I think, spent most of his high school years there, and played football, played basketball, ran track, and played lacrosse. Learned how to play lacrosse. So when recruiting time came around, Jamie Senior Malloy called Syracuse because he was an alum, and talked to Roy Simmons, this lacrosse coach, and said, "You need to see this guy. This kid's something else." Um, and so they brought him up, and they had a bad turn with a previous recruit in
Mm.
football, and Coach Ben Schwarzwalder um, said, "No, I'm not interested in recruiting Big Jim." And so we kind of left in a quandary, and so they negotiated a half scholarship from lacrosse and half from basketball. The basketball portion of it didn't really produce anything until his senior year. The coach wouldn't play him.
Right.
He immediately started in lacrosse and played football, but did not touch the football in a game, um, evidently until his junior year.
Wow.
Um, so the part of the legend is this one episode that Coach Simmons was relating to us. and they were the team was prepping for a conference championship, I believe. I don't think it was beyond that, because it was a home game, um, and it was against. I want to say it was against Navy,
Hmm.
um, and so they're prepping for the game. Game's at 1 o'clock. Uh, the track coach comes wandering into the locker room and asks Coach Simmons, "Say, we need a long jumper because we're in this conference meet and we have a chance to win. Would it be possible to borrow a gym for the long jump?" And Simmons is like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, okay, if you just leave, make sure he's got a game at 1 o'clock."
Right.
I said, yeah. We'll be fine. He'll just do a couple jumps and he'll be good to go. So, half an hour before game time, they're doing their pre-game in the locker room, and Simmons looks around and says, "Where's Brown?" And
Oh
one of the players says, "Oh yeah, he's out throwing the javelin."
my.
So it turns out that he won the long jump, won I think the triple jump, and threw the jab. I don't know if they scored or not, but then he gets into the locker room. They went out. He said Simmons said, "Get that guy." So they brought him back in, and he didn't play the first half. I don't know whether it was just to give him some rest because he'd been working or what. So they sat him out in the first half, and they came back in the second half. And my coach said he scored 5 goals. So that was part of the legendary part. Another one that happened. Cody, stop, man. Um, Jim used to come back to Syracuse in the spring for spring ball. He would come back and visit the team and talk to them and all that stuff.
Right.
And he would be in street clothes. And the story goes that they would meet on the quad. Syracuse had a quad area of the campus was elevated. You walked up to it. It was a flat surface and all the buildings all around it. Well, they'd be sitting in the stairs and he'd be talking to them. And at the end of the talk, he'd say, "Okay, flying up." Maybe the kid's looking around. He goes, "Anybody step up and thinks they can beat me in a 40?" And he was way retired by this time. Um, and he'd have the street shoes on and just blow the doors off of people.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, wild stuff, man.
Man. Amazing. Well, here we are in the Groundhog Day mode again, and you did your best to cover the same topics. I know you have a list. My brain is still waking up, so I'm gonna let you drive the bus from here. But
Yeah, let me. What we started with, we were talking yesterday. The segues here, or the conversation will happen. We just need to know
yeah,
where we went. And we were talking about the reason why we're having this podcast is we had a conversation 2 nights ago or 3 nights ago, whatever it was. And we were discussing just the direction we want to go, with essentials, with raise the bar, with the collaborators that we have, and the common conversations that we've had. And 2 nights ago, I had come to the conclusion a couple of days ago that the path that we had set, which was to address the need for development and standardizing techniques for the purposes of passing those standardized basic components in the skill events to coaches so that we have a common platform from which to build. The
yeah,
nuance. Okay, you got the nuance, but the those particular things that you can't do an event without
yeah,
are the things that have to be standardized, and people need to understand what they are, and so on and so forth. So we were talking about that as as part of the um, the overall plan, and then moving from that into discussing the state of the sport.
Right.
And this is over the course of the last year and a half. And more recently, I started thinking, okay, wait a second. You and I were up at CIF, and we were identifying, just looking at the way things were being run and the significant ways in which the form of that particular meet, and it goes for every meet, um, but it was demonstrated in that meet it was form that was determining how that meet would flow rather than the function of meeting the needs of the athletes and making them, giving them the opportunity
Yeah.
and adjusting so that they can perform to their best. The illustration we used um, was in that first conversation was the scheduling of long, triple, and high,
Oh
and
my
how.
God. Yeah, that was crazy because I had that
So
one kid from the city that was running back and forth right at the beginning, trying to
there
do the
were there
triple
were
and
a
the high
few.
jump at the same time.
There were a few.
And it was
So
105 degrees. Yeah.
so that as these thoughts have been, after we got back from Fresburg, um, that's when I started thinking about this. Okay, we weren't going to really begin to address the state of the sport until we had reached a certain level of, impact on development. But I started thinking about this. I said, no, we don't. There's not enough time here.
Yeah.
We're in an Olympic cycle with the LA Games coming up, and you see over and over and over again. And I think what really catalyzed it was a catalyst for me was this Grand Slam event that was supposed to happen in LA that
Hmm.
was ballyhooed, and USATF had gotten behind it, and for the last couple of years, and Michael Johnson was involved, and the uh, the end result of that was that
Underwhelming at best. Yeah.
they canceled it
Yeah.
the day before they canceled the event. Okay, and that to me is symptomatic of the whole.
Yeah.
The other day when we first did this, we talked about this mentality within track and field that is insistent that it has to be there's a certain mindset that is demanded of the spectator, and that is that you love the sport because it's the sport. Okay, well, that's great, except nobody gives a crap.
Right.
The dominant sports, um, and the dominant sport of football, pro and college, they're not demanding that the people love it because it's football. What they've done is they figured out a way to make it attractive and make it exciting and make it something that people want to see. Um, you know, uh, we use that as the kind of the top of the mountain goal,
Yeah.
and then we got track and field that where the strategies in place today are the same
Yeah.
strategies that were in place 100 years ago.
Well, you look at football, football keeps changing its format. Just 2 years ago, they went to, this new kickoff thing where, they didn't want people running 60 yards and smashing into each other. So they put them 10 yards apart, and results were mixed, but they're not afraid to experiment, right? They've come up
No,
with the play clock, they've come up with different innovations that have never affected the popularity other than to cause it to grow. Like you said,
right,
they're just
right,
trying, they have the owners meeting every year and they go, are we really this crazy about these particular rules? And they do a lot of self-examination and they change the product,
right,
and
right,
everybody's, like you said, they're buying in. They've got more engagement from all age levels and women. Now we're going to have women's flag football as a sport at the Olympics,
right,
which
right. I
is,
thought they were doing men too, aren't
I
they?
think it's everything. Yeah. But I mean, we've got women involved like crazy. I'm watching
Yeah. Well, they
women
made
play
a
flag football in high school.
the NFL made a back in the 2000s. I remember this campaign because it was published that they wanted to figure out how to kind of balance the audience between men and women.
Right.
And they put together two campaigns. One was a grassroots where they literally had representatives in the communities that would sponsor um, get-togethers of women that were, basically football widows on the weekend,
Right.
and so they get together and they would explain the rules. And then that was one campaign. The other campaign that they did is um, they made they created a strategy to personalize, to figure out how to, because they know that women are interested, evidently are interested and in not necessarily the game, but attaching a person and personalizing their interest because they have a personal interest in a club and the club's athletes, and
Right.
they pick. So they started doing that sort of thing. Well, okay, to get back to where we were, this insistence of a strategy that has relied on the notion that track and field should be attractive because it's track and field
Right.
um, is it's not going to be a successful strategy in today's industry, sports industry, for all the reasons that we talked
Yeah. Too
about.
competitive.
And what's that?
It's too competitive. I mean, there's
That's
just so
way too
many.
competitive.
Yeah.
So um, you've got this strategy that is continually being employed. As a matter of fact, I got to send you a couple of articles because I was in trying to reconstruct what we were talking about. I went back and started doing some searches about what is a USATF. It's like, what is USATF trying to do now, and what are their strategies? No, uh, what are their strategies moving forward, and how have they changed? Well, they haven't. It's the same product, and the reliance, it still comes back to this an aristocratic attitude toward the sport, that people should watch it, people should be interested and excited because it's track and field. Well, okay, that's just
Yeah.
that's you're spitting into the wind.
It's archaic. Yeah.
And then the other thing is you have governing bodies, whether it's in track and field or any other Olympic sport, that historically have existed for the sake of their own existence.
Right.
They're we talked about the other
Taking all the
day.
money off the top for themselves. Yeah.
Right. 70% of whatever the budget is goes to administrative expenses, and you got a small percentage going to the athletes. Well, you can take a look at. I don't know what the distribution is now. I mean, we can find out that, how much money are they is the governing body allocating and appropriating for athletes to train and pay for their stuff,
Right.
which has expanded dramatically in the last 25 years.
Right.
And the answer is it's minimal. The prize money is better, but the prize money is better for the top 3 to 5 people.
Yeah.
Um, what about the rest of the sport? And so we talked about how the governing body is not necessarily either equipped or interested in looking outside of the strategies that it has always used. And we believe there's a pretty big community, actually, but as we talk about your endeavors, my endeavors, Jeremy's, a fair number of other people, there's got to be a completely different approach.
Yeah.
And when I use that term completely different, I mean not even remotely close to track and field
Yeah.
in its purest form. And the reason we talked about that is that the purists of track and field, the people that just follow track and field all the time, no matter what,
Right.
they're always going to be there. And that's not the problem. The problem is that
Getting new people interested. Mm.
right, and all the strategies are geared toward catering to those purists that will always follow the sport anyway. So why are you spending all your time on people that are going to be there
Right.
when it's the other 90% that don't give a rip about what you're doing?
Right. Right.
So that's all. That all goes to say that we talked about um, we talked about the necessity of breaking free of that, and that's what prompted my thoughts the last few days was, okay, we were going to originally wait on this, and I started thinking, I said, no, forget it.
Yeah.
Let's our goal is to recruit like-minded people. Our
Yes.
goal, as you pointed out in our conversation the other night, yeah, yesterday, whenever it was, that our goal is to really survey people to find out where do you stand on stuff like this, because we have to have people that are pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
We discussed as well the need for um, these like-minded people to understand another facet of why track and field is floundering, and has for quite a while, is that it's individually based.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
had that conversation with Greg Kish the other day, and as he pointed out, unless the sport understands that it is a product and understands that that product is something that requires a team approach, and not from the standpoint of a franchise, but as we talked about the other day, football, and you brought up a really good illustration. Football, the NFL in particular, is dedicated to promoting football, and the NFL is is really the lead dog. It isn't. It's not team dependent. It's not athlete dependent. Even though those are products that are used, those are tools that are used. But it is the overall sport and the overall emblem of that sport
Yeah.
that is the product. We talked about, as an example, um, we you brought up UFC. Well, Dana White has built this monster called UFC, and guaranteed, even though there are specific athletes and fighters, men and women, that people follow, it isn't. That's not the product. The product is UFC,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Longevity of the fighters is limited.
they
They're not
come and
going to be
go.
around that long.
Ronda Rousey is no longer fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, who is? Well,
Right.
UFC is more popular now than it was when Ronda was fighting.
I know. And I haven't even
So
watched one in a while, which is weird because I used to really be into it when Chuck Liddell and those guys were around. I really watched a lot. Anderson Silva, some of my favors. They've all gotten old and retired,
Silva was something else, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
I was just watching. Speaking of that, I just happened to turn on, look at something on YouTube last night with Lesnar in it. It was,
Hmm.
man, that was some stuff, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the point being is that there's an obvious understanding that what you need to do if you're going to compete in the sports industry, and this goes for any industry, you've got to identify what your product is, and you've got to get behind it, and
Right.
everybody getting behind pushing that. And it's not. And one of the problems with track and field is it's a bunch of individual athletes and individual events.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. There's nothing. We want to elevate those people. We want to recognize them. We want to point to them, but we have to identify what our product is. And our premise, yours and mine, and the people that are part of this endeavor, um, our belief is the product is track and field embodies the best athletes in the world, but
Right.
and there is no exception. There's no we all believe that on the inside. All the people that are involved in track, they would say, yeah, it's the purest form of athletics. I was reading this article, matter of fact, the other day, that said the the germination of every other sport that's ever been played comes from track and field.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was the postulate. is that running, jumping, throwing are natural to human beings, and it is the purest form of athletic competition.
Right.
Well, as we talked, one of the things that makes track and field different is that there's a finite outcome. There's a finite way an objective finite way to measure the outcome. And the outcome is this much or a certain time in thousandths of a second or
Right.
whatever. And what that does is it puts a premium on athleticism because you're not going to be able to compete if you can't meet
Yeah.
that margin. The margin there's no room for error,
Right.
and for that reason, athletes reach a level of athleticism that no other sport comes close to.
Yeah.
That to me, and that was the conclusion I came to a few years ago. Is no, that is the product.
Right.
Um, and we have started to construct a mechanism to market that product and to call attention using as the basis for that out of the box marketing strategy and rebranding of track and field. um, uh, using these are the best athletes in the world
Yeah.
as the point of what the sport is about,
Yeah.
and constantly calling attention to it, constantly referring to it,
Yeah.
constantly throwing out challenges that, okay, prove us wrong. Show us where we're wrong about this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw, I don't know that we didn't say this the other day. I saw a film of Al Feuerbach.
Hmm.
It's on YouTube. You can go look it up. Um, Al was a world record holder in the shot put, right? It's back in the 70s and 80s. And there was a training film, and they were talking about how strong and agile these guys are, the throwers are. And it's a video of him cleaning and jerking 410 pounds.
Right. Wow.
Um, I think I told you, I don't know whether I told you this or not, but um, they've tested reactivity of athletes, and the throwers are the most reactive, at least.
Right.
Uh,
Fastest reaction times. Yeah. Quicker.
um, Quicker and all that stuff. Um, so anyway, so that goes back to this dictum of in track and field that in order to reach the podium, to have a shot, you got to push your body to extremes
Yeah.
in ways that no other sport has to, and in part because a lot of other sports are reliant on the guys next to you,
Right.
which
Right.
is great. Those are great things, and that's what they focus on. They don't focus on the individual. They focus on the team. They focus on the league. Well, track and field doesn't have that. It has a
Right.
bunch of individuals, and those individuals are very focused on themselves. We talked about that as well. You start talking to retired athletes in track and field, and the conversation inevitably comes back to what it was like when they were out competing. Well,
Sure.
okay, great. Those are important things and they're reflective, but from a promotional standpoint,
Yeah. Not a lot of great stories. Yeah.
no,
You need that.
people aren't going to be interested. I mean, when we were at the clinic, Redondo. Um, I think we were down at the apron, and I asked a question. I said, "You know who Carl Lewis is?" No.
Yeah. These kids are
Okay.
15 years old. Yeah. They don't know who Carl Lewis is. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't care.
Yeah.
So what does that say about the insistence on promoting only the athlete in the event? Well, okay, we can do that, but the athlete in the event are going to go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's got to be
Pretty
something
quickly.
bigger. There has to be
Yeah.
something bigger.
It's a
And
very
and
small window people are on top for, unless you're an
right.
Edwin Moses or someone like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they even had one 9 years without a loss.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great, and that's newsworthy, and that's worth celebrating, worth lifting up. But that's not the sport.
Yeah.
The sport is the athleticism. That is the product.
Yeah.
And so we are embarking on this hope um, to redefine what the product of track and field
Yeah.
is, and to get
Re-envision, redesign,
and
refurbish,
yeah,
revamp.
and right, and get as many people have these same feelings and have felt them for a long time. We talked about Mac back in '76, getting up on the on a soapbox talking about this disparity between the governing body and the athletes, and the governing body has no interest in the welfare and well-being of the athletes, relatively speaking,
Right.
as a demonstration of what's wrong with the sport. That was 50 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Nothing has changed. It's
Nothing has
gotten
changed.
worse. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's I think that's where we left off.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's a good preamble for sure. The problems that we're facing are many, it looks like to me, between, you know, uh, this competition with these other, to me, and it's the greatest part about sports is the fact that it is competitive. We're in a competitive industry against some just mega monolithic,
right,
awesome sports
right,
that are just dominating the landscape.
right.
I talked about the fact that, a couple weeks ago I was trying to find a college baseball game because the College World Series was on and UCLA was in it. And I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it on the ESPN Plus Sports app. I was going through and I'm looking at
Mhm.
more college sports and more this and more that. And I finally found the game and I think I was able to set it to tape. And I was like, okay, because it wasn't at a time that I could actually watch it. But I remembered it as I was going through that whole thing. I'd never found track and field. And I
Mhm.
found, competitive underwater tiddlywinks. I found, all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff, but I did not find track and field. And, just another microcosm of relevancy, And so from the bad television product, which, we've been watching for years, I didn't realize it when I was a kid watching it because I remember first watching my first experience with the Olympics was 1976. I was 12 years old watching Bruce
Mhm.
Jenner win the decathlon. I got to see Dwight Stones, do the high jump up in Canada. I got to see a bunch of stuff in track and field. And,
Mhm.
it seemed like it was relatively well done. But, as I've gotten older, within 6 years of that, I'm at UCLA, and then another 4 years, my senior year, they've got the meet on Prime Ticket. And on Prime Ticket, after telling us all week that we'd be on TV, we all get over to somebody's place to watch it. And they showed every single running race that there was, not one field event, not one, of anything else. And it was all, they didn't even, I don't even think they mentioned who won the field events, but they showed every lap of the men's 10,000. And that has not changed. Like you said, it's been a long time. I've been out of UCLA for over 40 years. It's the same product, and nothing has changed. And, from getting experts, quote unquote, to do their commentary at the Olymp I remember watching the Olympic high jump this year, and I'm like, I don't think they bothered to tell you who was calling it. And I'm listening to them going, well, they don't know anything about the high jump, of course. And so I'm just like, these people, it's just like, and it's one of many. We're talking about the problems. I think if we try to take what there is and fix it, I just think it's too archaic, too old, or it
Right,
work.
right.
So I think you're
It
right. I think it needs to be blown up, reimagined, reinvented. And
Well, that's what
yeah,
Casey Wasserman said. When he and I had that conversation, what we mentioned that he and I talked about spring of last of 24, and I was proposing this. I was saying, okay, with the build up for 28,
a perfect time for this too.
track and field,
Uh,
track and field is the marquee event for the Olympics. Okay, well, the rest of the time it's not existent.
right.
And his comment was that it was track and field has to be reimagined. It has to be, the elements will always be there.
Yeah.
of what makes it great, but the way in which those elements are used and packaged and marketed and branded, that's got to completely change.
Yeah.
And you have this perpetual thing with the governing bodies, whether it's USOC or USA Track and Field World Athletics. They're facing the same thing in Europe.
Yeah.
Sepco's running up against the same problems.
Well, what are you going
And
to do if you're over
we've got
there?
to
Yeah.
we've got to go completely outside of that.
Yeah.
And we believe we have a strategy that certainly is worth it. It certainly is. If we're effective in it, um, it's going to call attention to the trademark, in essence, the track and field embodies the best athletes in the world.
Yeah.
And then from that, okay, now you can start to generate some interest in these athletes because now the rest of the world, that other 90%, is starting to see them.
Yes.
And then you can parlay that into traditional
Yeah.
competitions. But it's that initial thrust that has to be different.
Yeah. Well,
So,
we're like the redheaded stepchild, right?
oh
So
yeah.
we always get everybody that's, no offense to red-haired people, obviously, but when you're out there and the athletes that come to you, who am I recruiting? I am recruiting basketball players, I'm recruiting volleyball players, football players, and soccer players from the high school teams. Because in the spring, most of those sports are over. Soccer has their playoffs, basketball has their playoffs. Sometimes it
Yeah.
impinges a little bit into our season, but then they've got plenty of time left and they're already in shape. They come out, they're already athletic, and you teach them how to do these events, and they're pretty good at them. But it's like, and every once in a while, you'll get someone who's basically riding the pine, right? They don't start, they're putting in all this time and they don't get to play. And they come to track, and all of a sudden, every week they get to compete and they have the camaraderie with the team and they're
Yeah.
being pushed to their limits physically and
Hmm.
they get
Hmm.
better at all their things that they're doing, like you said. So
Right.
it's the trade secret that when you come to track and field you should therefore get better, and when you go back to your sport you'll be faster or stronger or quicker or
Hmm.
whatever. And yeah, there's so many advantages that we have, but it's like nobody's ever thought about parlaying them into anything you know of any. You're talking about the problem with Europe. I'm like, well, if you're someone who's growing up, our biggest problem is the same. If you're growing up and you're thinking, hey, I want a scholarship for my kid, I'd like to not have to pay $50,000 a year in tuition. So you say, what event, what sport can they do? Can they get an academic scholarship? Okay, they're not that smart. Can they do something at a high level and get in? Okay, well, what is that? And there's very few parents that are thinking track and field. They're thinking,
Hmm.
for women, it's going to be soccer, it's going to be volleyball, it's going to be basketball. I mean,
Softball,
Caitlin
volleyball.
Clark, basketball, softball, huge, right? And you've got, club, everything, club soccer, club volleyball, club this, club that. And track has those things, but they're so poorly attended. It's like it's not really, again, competitive. If you're trying to get the athletes to you, where are they going to go? They're going to go somewhere where they can get some NIL money now. I mean, the whole thing is becoming, that monolithic, the I want to say monolithic suggests age. I want to suggest power and
Well,
scope,
age
right?
and power,
Yeah,
though.
that
I
whole
mean,
thing where they're just it's designed and everybody's just gravitating towards it, and we oh yeah, the problems are many, but yeah, let's just blow it up and restart.
the key to this is developing critical mass of
Yeah,
people that they're thinking the same way.
like-minded.
They just need an avenue to be able to express and get behind a concept.
Hmm.
So let's see what happens. Let's see if we can
Yeah,
stir the pot enough that people say, okay,
yeah,
what are you guys thinking? And it's gonna go through permutations. There's gonna
yeah.
be, if we get enough people, it'll be very interesting to see what the outcome is on this kind of concept that we talked about.
Yeah,
Um,
well, we know
but but
enough
the,
people.
but the critical link in this is everybody understanding that a track and field has to be a business. B, is that business is a product, and C, you better dang well figure out what that product is, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're whistling Dixie.
Yes.
Um, Hang on
And
one
you
second.
get it's a competitive industry with mega million dollars behind it, which, we don't have. We don't have that.
No,
And
no,
we
no,
need to get
and
it on
that's
TV. How do you get it seen? That's really,
yeah,
in a lot of ways, I think it still comes back to where's your money coming from? And money and sports in this world, in this nation especially, is generated off people watching it on TV, whether it's pay-per-view, free with ads, whatever, however you're doing it, somehow you're getting paid by that. I mean, if you're an NFL franchise, we talked about the Cowboys getting, or the Lakers getting sold for $10 billion, and they think that's chicken feed compared to what, say, the Cowboys or the Niners or the Steelers would get, right? If you sold them, you have this money. Where does their money come from? I mean, they're playing with house money. The NFL gets
yeah, yeah,
$400 million per team every year from their television contract, guaranteed. They say, here's your money, and now you can spend your $400 million with whatever the salary cap is, and these owners have this money that it's basically given to them. It's like playing Monopoly every year. They say, here's your money. Okay. And you move around the board and buy what you want, so that everybody's doing the same thing. And then you go now, who are the ones that are more competitive? Who are the ones that put together the good teams? You got to get the good coaches. You got to have the right trainers. You got to, you've got all those different things, but they're all playing with the same stuff, and it's free money just given to them at the start of the season. That's, now they're still fighting over how many home games do we have and all that, because that's where you get, however many, what, $100 a ticket. Say you put 550,000 people in the stands every game. 50,000, add a couple zeros. That's 5 million, in revenue. That's not even selling parking
well,
and getting food.
right.
So it's like, it's kind of silly. You go, it's a mega billion dollar industry, and we don't have any of that. There's nobody investing. That's what we need.
Well,
We need to get people that want to
well,
watch us.
right, but why is that? What is it that
Yeah.
people are investing in? Well, they're investing in football.
Yeah.
That that's what they're investing in. Howie Long, I'll never forget this quote. Um, I don't remember whether it was just something that he said in a, just, I think it was a comment he just made at the practice field. He said, baseball is America's pastime. No, I'm sorry. It was his Hall of Fame speech. Baseball is America's pastime. Football is America's passion.
Yes.
And it's football. It's not the Niners. It's not the Pats. It's not the Steelers. It's football.
Yeah. Yeah.
The tools of promoting football are the Niners, the Pats, the Steelers, the
Yeah.
Dolphins, the Chiefs. Um, those are the tools. And within those, or the toolboxes are the athletes, but it's football.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, so I think the next step, and this is what prompted this conversation. The next step is, okay, let's stop screwing around and stop playing. Let's see if people are serious. Let's present this strategy and see if we can muster the kind of critical mass that's necessary to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a promise. We have a commitment uh, from sports marketing people to take a look at what it is that we generate as a strategy and
Yeah.
weigh in on that from a support standpoint. So
Yeah.
is it it's worthwhile doing.
It's interesting because some people not looking at it from the same viewpoint as us would say, "Well, what are you guys so worried about?" They're in California alone. If you start counting up all the high schools and the high school programs and the kids that are out on the teams, they'll say you're having incredible engagement. You have
Hmm.
thousands of kids.
Right.
The state meet. We talked about the grind. I went over the grind again because we did talk about it the other time. I said, well, you know, Arcadia, Mount Sac, 1 week off. league finals, league prelims, league finals, CIF prelims, CIF finals, masters, state prelims, state finals. I'm like, that's that's a pretty incredible run, through all of that. And we've got this state of California, which is like another country, where
Hmm.
this getting to the top of the California ladder
That's
is difficult. You're going
brutal,
to be one of the
brutal.
best athletes, one of the most highest recruited athletes in almost any event, to go to all these colleges across the nation, and hopefully, if you're wanting to get some money, end up in either the SEC or the Big Ten, the Big Ten, which is just like football, those conferences that actually, care and promote and, pay their coaches and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's some people go, well, look, you got all these numbers, and we still do. So that's a positive. You do have at least people in the sport. At least we're not going out and saying we got to get some people out
So
here.
do right,
Still
right,
get the athletes to the sport. So that gives us at least that base to pull from. And like you
right,
said, this window is very tight. And every day we don't get anything done, it's getting smaller because the
right.
Olympics is coming in 2028 back to Los Angeles. And how great is that? I remember that in 1984, when I was a sophomore at UCLA, the buzz was just palpable. And you had
Yeah,
people coming and training at UCLA
right, right.
from all over the world. I remember meeting a Canadian sprinter that was dating, Kerho, and I remember, the guy that ended up, I want to say Derek Johnson, but the guy that pulled his hammy a couple of years later, and his dad
Oh, the Derek
helped him
Redmond,
across
Derek
He was a
Redmond,
British sprinter.
Derek Redmond.
Yeah, and he pulled his hamstring really badly, and his dad came out of the stands. One of my favorites. I just love that whole thing. He's like waving off the security guards. He's like, "Get off me, man!" Picks up his son, and they finish. I'm just like, that's the kind of stuff that's just amazing. So it's like you get that Olympics, that '84, the trials. If they're dumb enough to put them up in Oregon, I'm gonna scream. They've got to be at the Coliseum. You got to have both the
I
trials
think I
and
think
the
I read
finals.
I think I did read something yesterday that said that it's going to be at the Coliseum.
Yeah,
They don't have a choice. I mean,
they
that's
got to. Yeah,
that would be
it'd be a huge error, compounding all the other ones. But if you get, the majesty, the beauty, we did it before. When was the first ones back in the 30s, right? I mean, we had
Los
32
Angeles might have been 32.
because
Uh,
36 was Hitler in Berlin,
yeah,
Jesse Owens.
and then 40 didn't happen. 44 didn't happen.
Yeah, during the
So the
war.
next one would have been 48 with Bob Mathias,
Yeah,
and then 52 was yeah. So it would have been
it's been a long.
LA would have had been in late 20s
Yeah,
or
yeah,
32.
28 or 32, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the history. I still remember watching, Rafer
Hmm.
the top for the torch, and just like
Right.
what a great ambassador that guy for the sport, classy and just, another in the long line at that time of the American dominance in the decathlon, which is, since gone away. But we've
To
had a
some
few,
degree, yeah.
come back, in and out. But in the 80s, I remember the whole Daley Thompson and Jürgen Hinkson era. So that was
Oh, that was something else. That
that
was
was
my
something else. Yeah.
yeah. That
But
was
this
struggling.
is our opening, like you said. If we're going to capitalize, like you said, and literally track and field goes from obscurity to everybody's talking about it, and it's on every day for almost 2 solid weeks. It's just like boom, and here's your chance. And so I don't know. Will we be able to reimagine it in that time frame? It might just be a too well machine.
Yeah, I was reading this article by Matt that was quoting Max Siegel, who's the CEO of USATF. This is from 3 years ago, and he was talking about the 6 year window at that time. I'm not sure of that. I am sure of let's put it this way: there's an opportunity in the U.S. market to take advantage of something like the Olympics for the
Yes.
benefit of the sport. But this idea that track and field is going to go away forever if we don't do it in
Right.
6 years. Nah, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah. It's still
Um,
going to be around, but yeah.
yeah, but again, it comes back to what is the product that you're
Yeah.
promoting? What is the strategy to use that product?
It's a huge opportunity. Obviously, that's the thing. Need to capitalize on it. And if not completely fix it in a 3 year window, at least be on our way.
Yeah,
You know,
at least come to a decision as to, what is going to be the focal point of what you're presenting to the buying public.
yeah,
That's what Greg was talking about, pounding
yeah,
home. It's for what they do with Legends. It's I forgot how he phrased it, but it's creating an environment of a within the product, creating an environment that is attractive and meets the needs of the people that are attending.
yeah,
That's that's their primary focus. And then the second one is be ready to change.
yes,
Be ready to make an adjustment.
yeah. Got to
Um,
be done that way. I mean, you're the competition aspect is the hugest
oh,
part.
you don't have a choice. No,
Yeah,
you're left in the dust. I mean, we talked about NASCAR, we've talked about UFC. I mean, there are many sports that have figured it out and
yeah,
understand growing and NASCAR was the fastest growing spectator sport for like 10 years.
yeah,
And we talked to Greg about that. Why is that? Well,
yeah,
they started pumping the crap out of the racing and using in their toolbox of promoting racing the tools of the drivers and the
yeah.
teams. And okay, now
Yes.
all of a sudden, people started getting interested, watching a car go around an oval. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
I know. I know. That was my first thought. I'm like, it's that popular again. I'm like, I can watch NASCAR for a minute. It's like that's
Well,
it.
I can watch the 500, and that I can watch.
Yeah.
Just yeah, it's just yeah. I mean, it's an enigma as to the attraction, but they've done just an incredible job of promoting
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
and
Like you said,
establishing what is it. They've figured out what their product
yeah.
is, and they're beating the drum to death.
And that's the thing. I mean, we've got the athleticism and the stuff to be just awesome. And
Right,
just no, like you said, I think the nutshell issue for me is like just like you said. I mean, there's purists for every sport, but like everybody was talking about for years, like they finally came up with the pitch clock in baseball, which was
right.
smart because a lot of people, especially in that monolithically long regular season of 162 games, they just won't watch the game to the finish. Maybe they watch 4 or 5 innings. It looks like my team's ahead. I'll check out who won in the paper tomorrow. Not that big of a deal. When the playoffs show up, people get a little bit more interested, that kind of stuff. And it's you've got to be able to, hold the attention, but the change, oh yeah, we'll make the games a little bit shorter, and we'll start marketing to, well, like you said, find out the people that aren't watching and try to get them to come because the ones that are your faithful, they're going to watch day in, day out. They're going to watch a 16 inning game to the finish at 2 o'clock in
Right,
the morning.
right, right,
They're going to do that
right.
because they love it and you can't lose them. But the other guys, let's get them in, and that's the biggest thing we've got to do because here, especially in California, your entertainment dollar is stretched pretty thin. You
Oh,
got
very, very.
you got
Yeah, what do you
pro
got?
sports, you've got college sports, you've got music, you've got
Oh, you
movies,
got everything.
you got everything going on here.
But you bring up a great point because that's again something that Greg talked about. Because the discretionary dollar is got to be applied to something.
Yeah,
You dang well better have your ducks lined up because otherwise
yeah,
it's going down to the Home Depot Center and watching soccer. It's
yep,
going to UCLA or SC to watch volleyball. It's I mean it is so competitive.
yeah,
Um,
crazy.
and what are the key to it's this is not new. This is in terms of business development. This is not new. It's identifying what your strategic plan is based on what your competitive advantage is.
Yeah,
Well, we know we can construct that product because of what we know the exists within track and field. Well, nobody's ever done it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start thinking about doing it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah,
All right,
all right.
man. Well, hey,
You gotta get
yep.
going, don't you?
I got to get going. I got early morning trainings to get to. You got your stuff to get to, but yeah, we got it.
All
All
right,
right,
love
sir.
you. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
Yep. You too.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
And we're just now finishing. Alan Hankel was my guest, recurring guest, call him co-host, co-collaborator, co-conspirator. Uh, we are trying to reimagine the world of track and field and make it more relevant with the basic strength and support of the athletes. You know, the athletes are the strength of track and field. But unfortunately, here in the US and around the world, the numbers are dwindling of people that are actually interested following the event of track and field, meaning all the sprints, all the jumps, all the throws, everything. And again, every 4 years, it becomes an Olympic sport, and the Olympics sells it, and then interest hits a peak, and then it dwindles again. And we're just looking for a way to keep and not just keep it, but elevate this great sport. That it's become my passion later on in life as a coach. I think sometimes I've coached football at the high school level. I've been to coached in a CIF championship game. I've been an offensive and defensive coordinator. I've been position coach. I've done a lot of things in football. And I wasn't even a great football player. I just played at the high school level. And then, track and field, something I was even a little better at, I didn't really pursue, until these last, say, 8 years now. I've started, the business of, Sky High and Fly Jump Lab and, started doing podcasts and stuff like that. And as I've reconnected and made new friends inside the community, people that I admire and respect, Jeremy Fisher, who runs the training center down in Chula Vista, different people that I've come into contact, great athletes, great coaches. I still remember and count as valuable in this discussion all my great coaches at UCLA, John Smith, Anthony Curran, Art Venegas, Bob Larson, just some of these giants in the sport. Have the opportunity to work and directly under them and learn from them. And there's a lot of great athletes, great coaches, and we've got some people that are thinking outside the box and saying we need to continue to grow this great sport. So that's what we were talking about today with Alan Hankel. We will, I'm sure, broach the subject again. You've heard me rant and rave a few times in the past about the lack of all these different promotional skills and the product that is put out on TV isn't up to snuff and blah, blah, blah. So we've got a lot of work to do, but it's a great sport with great people in it. And, it's an opportunity. Let's face it. There's a lot of other sports out there doing a better job at coming up with a product and getting people to pay for it. So that is our rant and our passion for now. I'm Troy Haynes, the Sky High and Fly guy. You were listening to Raise the Bar with our guest, Alan Hankel. Do remember to hit that subscribe button down there on the YouTube channel. You can find Alan at Alan Hankel at Alan Hankel on Instagram. And you can find me at Sky High and Fly Jump Lab on Instagram. And, follow, like, watch, pay attention. We got lots of stuff out there. Going to be announcing a new subscription service here soon on my site. And then just learning from and copying some of the moves of the best. If you want to have video analyzed, if you have questions for the mailbox, send them to at Sky High and Fly Jump Lab. Just send me a DM for right now. We're going to try to set up another venue, but we're going to do our second mailbag episode here pretty soon. And until next time, Troy Haynes at Raise the Bar signing off. Have a great one.